recently started doing my own consulting, freelancing since about 5 months in organizations in India, out of India now for a long time. And I thought it's time for me to do something different. While the learning still continues, let's try and learn in different forms, right? There's something that I have not yet experienced, let's do that. So I'm doing my own consulting in the form of Essence of Testing, that's my company name. And that's all I'm going to really say about myself. Let's focus on why are you really here, right? What do you really expect from this session? So now this is going to be a very interactive session. There will be time for Q&A afterwards as well, and there is a separate discussion forum as well where we can talk more specifics out of this. But before we start off, it's good to know what you expect, and also I would expect a lot of questions, interactions happening throughout this 45 minutes so that we can keep it very relevant to everyone. Okay? So, what do you expect from this particular session, these 45 minutes?
One thing, I work for Capgemini, and recently there is like a huge drive, you need to learn one automation tool, and so it's okay, it's good to learn automation tool, but sometimes manual testers will feel that are we now absolute, but as I feel it's not, because tool we start we do action when software will be stable, rather than before even coding. How can automation testing can be started?
Yeah. So it's essentially the thought is more in terms of manual testers. What is their role really, and is automation really so important? How does automation come into picture even before you start testing or developing software in that sense, right? I think it's a very interesting question, but let's take it post this session. We'll not be covering that aspect right now, but it's very relevant. Short answer, each and every role is important. Each and every role adds value, but it is all in the context. And that's all I'll say about it right now. Okay, and we'll have a separate discussion on that. Yeah.
So, very intrigued by the missing feedback loop, so we have to understand.
Okay. What is the missing feedback loop, and understand that? Okay, we'll definitely be talking about that. Yes.
What happens in my case most of times is the feedback is missing. So it's the internal tester or the client. What's the thing is that we have mostly the internal client, and we don't bother about the important part, that the campaign or the money part or the amount part. And sometimes we put all efforts, but we miss the feedback at the right time.
Sure. So you don't know really what value the team members have put in, because you're not getting any feedback coming from anyone else.
Sometimes we complete with everything and then still we don't get the
Sure. Sure. Okay.
To get the
Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, so we are getting the feedback through our demos and interviews from the customer. But what I am looking here for, is there anything that we need to look forward to get? What are the things that are missing?
Okay. Very important aspect. Right? What else might be missing that the teams can do more of to get better value? Sorry, it was
to get the relevant feedback. What are the set of questions we should put up so that we get the feedback or the pointers which we using which we can improve.
Right. So I think relevant is a very interesting word. Right? Again, it's ambiguous, but it's very interesting, because just feedback is yes, you did well or you missed something, but is that really relevant? More actionable points out of that will help the team do better, right? We'll take one last thought before we proceed.
So, as a Scrum Master, I also wanted to get how what actually my team is delivering, whether that's a quality product or not. It also sometimes it happens that if I'm interacting with them, they also feel they also should not feel that I'm doing some micromanagement. But simultaneously, I also want that team is delivering something quality. So
Okay.
how we can.
So as a Scrum Master, how do I know the team is delivering quality without appearing as a micromanager of sorts, right?
Yeah.
And with that thought, it leads very well into my next question to you guys, right? Reading the name of the topic or whatever abstract that you are aware of, which roles do you think this session is really relevant to? Why are you as a Scrum Master over here?
I think this
All.
All the roles, right? Well, thankfully we are in an agile conference, so everyone knows quality is a team responsibility, right? But if that is true, then why do we still see QA being referred to as a gatekeeper and not as an advocate or enabler of quality? Why do we still ask QAs the question when things go wrong in production, when you find defects in production, and the first question gets asked to QAs, why did you not test this? Did you test this? Why did you not test it? Does that happen in your teams, in your organizations?
I think everywhere, because
Everywhere, right?
there is what I see it is QA and QC are misunderstood. Actually, QC is who is responsible to test and make sure that we are not delivering defects in production, right? QA is from the beginning. It should be involved from the beginning.
Should be, right? Exactly.
By
Should be.
implementing
Yeah.
processes.
And this is the hypocrisy of the software development processes that we have, including Agile. We say we are Agile. What are the different roles over here? I know we have Scrum Masters. Who are the testers? Any QAs? Manual automation? Both? Both? Manual automation also? Any developers in the room? Okay, great. At least we have one developer. Scrum Masters, any more Scrum Masters? Business analysts? Product owners? Managers? Any other roles I have missed? HR, excellent, right? And it's great HR is here because I want HR to know that QA is not a scavenger. And please take action on the team members who point to QAs as with finger pointing, why did this get missed? Instead of asking a proactive question, what went wrong over here and how can we prevent it happening again? And it is a very, very important shift that is required. It's enough we talk about processes and practices, we have to get that into action and really make this quality a team involvement. Right? We say quality is everyone's responsibility. Don't ask one person finger pointedly why did this go wrong.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but on that point, I believe that QA is part of a leadership group. Okay, when QA is part of a leadership group. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you that the type of question should be different than like okay, so what's the issue? That should be the question.
Exactly, and that's my point,
Yes,
right?
yes, but
When you ask the question has a very big meaning.
yes,
Right?
but
If I tell you, sorry, I'm going to interrupt, right? Because we need to make sure we get to the core context. But this fundamental is very important to establish. Asking the right question is very important. It doesn't mean you have to sugarcoat things, right? We have to find why did this happen, get to the root cause, and make sure that first of all that issue is fixed. In production, our users are not getting impacted. But going forward, how can we prevent that thing happening again? And that positive tone is very important than saying, you did a mistake, you're fired. Of course, no one says you're fired, it just happens unfortunately. But let's move on from that, right? I think the point is established what I'm trying to make over here. And by enabler, what I really mean, right? You have to facilitate collaboration and communication. Asking the right questions, asking the right type of questions, not just from root cause analysis, throughout the process, right? Questioning, not just saying this is a requirement, go implement it. These are the test cases, go test it. This is a feature, break it down and see how to get it implemented. Question, why? The 5 whys is so important to get to, are you really focusing on the right thing over here? Okay? Thinking about risks, that's something that as a QA mindset, you bring about a great value to the table. Are you thinking about risks, potential risks, and not just saying, oh, this is a risk, now go figure it out. Taking that next step to see how can you prevent that, mitigate that risk essentially, right? And of course, the most important aspect is preventing defects. Mind you, I'm not calling testing. I'm calling it preventing defects. What can you do to prevent defects? How can you test better? How can you test the requirements better? How can you test your design better? Whatever it really means, right? What can you do to prevent those risks? And that is the true value of a tester, a QA. Okay? Now let's begin to the core topic itself, right? The feedback loop. Some problem with the clicker, I'll just use this. Okay, so typically what happens, right, is it's not working very smooth. That's fine. Yeah. Don't change it for me. Yeah. So Yeah. So typically what happens is you get you build some features, right? There's a product idea, you would start breaking it down and say, okay, let's build some features. And what happens when you build the features and you release your product to the market? You start measuring based on some metrics that you might define that makes sense to that particular context of the product, right? Is this really making sense? What is my engagement? What are number of installs or number of page visits? How many conversions happen from page visit to actual shopping, for example, right? If it's an e-commerce type site. So, based on the features you build, you try capturing some metrics. One of the metrics would be, okay, how many defects were found in production, for example, right? Bad metric to look at, but that's a metric, right? But based on the metrics, then you start baselining, saying, if it's a new product that I've built, of course I don't know what to really expect. I have some thought what it should be, but what is it truly? And you start baselining, saying, my first release, this is what happened. Subsequent releases, how does it compare based on that baseline, right? Or there might be some industry benchmarks. Page load should be sub 3 seconds. Where are we? So it's baselining compared to that, right? But based on that measuring and when you do the baselining, then the interesting part starts. You start analyzing what do these numbers truly do. Based on understanding, you would learn a lot of things about your product, about your features, about your users, and you would hopefully say that fine, I had my set of features, my roadmap in mind. But based on what I have learned, can I create some hypothesis around it and use that learning to say, am I on the right track? Do I need to change my direction? What do I need to do? And that gets back into my requirement cycle where I'm re-looking at my features to say, yes, I'm on track, or I need to change my focus, I need to do whatever else is required around that, right? And that's when the focus starts hopefully changing from just building features to also experimenting. Experimenting with what information you have learned, what you had originally in mind, and what different things can you potentially do to make it a better product for your users. Because if users are happy, then what is going to happen? The organization is going to do well, the product is going to do well, right? And there are various other side effects out of that, right? But this is what essentially is a feedback loop, right? That you take an idea, you build it, you measure it, you learn from it, and then you tweak it, you pivot based on that learning, you create different hypotheses, and you would include that feedback coming back from the consumers into building.
Sorry, a quick question. I understood the whole part. Only on the hypothesis, I'm a bit confused. Because we are going through the same cycle currently on the performance side. But how are we building this hypothesis? Like, on what basis?
And that's the part that we'll be covering.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. A very good question. Okay. So the next part we are going to focus on this measure and learn and what value that really brings to your teams. Okay. So that is a feedback loop that we have. Now, typically when we are talking about concepts, this is a concept. This is not a magic, as was referred to earlier, right? A magic solution or a silver bullet kind of thing. This is an idea. It's a concept. And to make this concept more relatable, let's use case study, which is the best way of saying it. So, how many of us have learned any tool or programming language as a simple way, right? Which is the first program you wrote, Hello World? Yes. Okay? Can you build an enterprise application based on Hello World? No? Okay. So, that same way, I am not going to come up with my own case study. Let's look at what type of products you are working on, and let's pick on that, using that as a reference, we'll talk about the next steps, okay? So, can you share some products that you are working on? What product you are working on?
Tax tools, it's like Excel sheets based on the US taxation sections.
Okay,
like
tax
India,
tools,
yeah,
okay, for US market.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like India, we have ATG. In US also there are various different sections. So per section they have one particular Excel sheet itself, which has a lot of macros and VBAs. Which CPAs are using.
Okay. So to summarize, a taxation-based tool for US-based consumers,
Yes.
right? In summary, any other? Yeah.
I work for oil and gas industry.
Okay.
My team is making the knowledge-based applications for saving the time on the design, mechanical design.
Mechanical design, oil and gas product for mechanical design. Okay, very specific use case, right? Anyone else here? Go on.
So we're implementing SAP to do the distribution in transportation services.
Implementing SAP for distribution and transportation services. Which region?
This is currently in US and Canada.
US and Canada. Okay. Yeah.
So we have a product which churns out regulatory reports for US banks.
Regulatory reports for US banks. Again, completely different domain. Related with tax, finance in some ways, but a very different level. Right? Anyone else? Yeah.
At Optimize, we are building a platform for sales performance management.
Sales performance management. Okay. For which region or particular domain, or doesn't matter?
Basically, the current clients are mostly Fortune 500.
Okay.
But if at all we talk about domain, majority of the customers are from pharma, insurance, and telecom.
Pharma, insurance, Digicom, and you said Fortune 500, so basically spread across the globe, right? Anyone else?
We're building up a customer-facing portal to improve the SaaS-based product business and the interaction with the customer.
Okay, SaaS-based product business, customer portal for SaaS-based business. Okay. Any consumer product? Any e-commerce? Yeah.
E-commerce retail recommendations.
Okay. E-commerce. So basically, yeah. Resort booking, very different application, right? And thank you for bringing that up. The reason I wanted a variety, and I think we've got a good variety across, right? We've got various different domains and users of these products across the world. Okay, so these examples are good. Now I want each of you to start thinking more about these aspects, right? Is when you look at your product, yes, you might be knowing your area, your module in detail, what you are interacting with, in whichever role capacity that you have, right? Is that the whole product? No, right? So the question is, how well do you really know your product? Do you know it just from your focus area? Or do you know it entirely?
Entirely. We should know each and every functionality of that product.
Okay, so we should know it entirely. Now, I'm not going to pick on you, but I'm going to use your product example. Okay, from a taxation product, that domain is still fairly contained in that sense, right? But if you have to take oil and gas product, it needs probably deep understand of geography and petroleum and whatever that is required for those, right? Or if you take distribution, it's not just about optimizing the distribution channels. You probably need to understand more about the product, where it is going to be in, is it in rural India, is it in US, because optimization differs based on that, right?
Government policies.
Government policies. So when you take about the US regulations, if you are looking from a regulatory perspective, that is much more deeper, right? So the product understanding has to varies. And though I would like to say whatever product I work on, I know it inside out completely, it might not be feasible because it's not practical, right? If it was, then one product owner is sufficient for that whole product. How many product owners do you really have in your teams, right? So think about it. It's not practical as well. But how can you expand your horizon as much as possible to know more about the product without spending your whole time learning about the product and actually adding value to the product? So that's a balance to be maintained. Okay? So the intent is very important. What is the intent of your product really doing? Taxation, what does it really mean? Who's going to be using it? Right? Those kind of things. So what is the intent, the core value add of your product? What are the use cases that your product is really going to go through? Again, biased towards your area of influence, but not restricted only to that. You have to expand more on that aspect. Okay? What value are you providing? Is that product providing to your end users? Do you really understand that? Are you just saying this macro should work correctly, or this particular functionality should work correctly? This route should be optimal. I know this is the route for rural India that should be taken, and that's all I care about.
Value is the core art of Agile. Means whatever we do in Agile, bottom line is to give value to the client.
Correct. That's a philosophy.
Yeah. It's a philosophy.
Can you get it into action? Right? It's coming down to that, right?
Yeah.
It's all about coming down to that. You're right. It ties directly into that principle or tenet in some ways. But how do you get it into action? And this I'm talking as an individual on the team. are you able to understand what is really going on and what functionality you're working on, what value is it going to provide to the users. And based on that, the question which our Scrum Master asked, right? How do I know if everything is on track or not? Without seeming to sound very micromanagerial. Because the question is important, the reason for the question is important, but I don't want to interfere in such a way that Ritik says that, why is he asking me so many times about the same thing? As a team, as team members, we need to know, are we really on track in terms of what we are supposed to be doing or not? And these are very important questions. Okay? A product is useless without its users. The next question comes down to is, who really are your product users? Again, I'm going to take taxation example, right? Who is your user?
Chartered accountants of US.
Okay, chartered accountants of US. Now, does it matter in your context? What is their profile? Other than just a title of chartered accountants or CPA? Does it matter?
No.
Maybe not. Maybe in another context, it matters. Who's going to be using this optimization? Who said about optimization? So that was it. Optimization, right? Does it matter to you about who is going to be using your product in terms of doing the optimization?
Yes, because we have different vendors involved, like DHL, MMX, and different companies using different kind of software, interfacing to the one which we are building.
Sure.
So there will be different profiles kind of a setup that is required.
Right? So profiles from actual personas perspective start coming up, right? Who is the real user? Now, also, does it matter where is this user coming from? A DHL versus a DTH, for example, right? If we just take that example, does it matter if that person is again from India or from US or Canada or wherever else? Would it matter? Why would it matter? Why would it matter? Because the user, they are just going to use the interface that has been created, right?
So if you take a resort booking example, then the user from location will matter.
That's a great example. If you switch from optimization to resort booking, right? Why would a profile for a resort booking, knowing the location from where the user is coming, matter to a resort booking? Resort is in one place only.
But the offers and everything can be user specific or the location specific.
So offers, that's not talking about the potential features that might be there, right? But let's say I'm just building up this resort booking, right? It's a new thing I'm building. Offers is still a way off thing for me. Would it matter to me knowing that what is the where the users are coming from?
Yes. I could use that information to customize my existing offering, because if I know the location, it will help me to segment my offerings.
Right? The simplest way, right? Offers can be more in terms of booking packages or something. A simple thing that we can probably look at why it is important. I agree it is important. But why it is, sorry, I'll just complete that part. Why it is important? Maybe the type of food I keep in my restaurant should be balanced based on the place where the users are coming from. At the simplest level, right? I'm not even getting to more advanced level of features that might be there. Sorry, you were saying something.
Even in my case, like talking about distribution, it is important to know which country they are coming from, because we might need to mask a lot of information which is not allowed to be, detailed enough in oil and gas industry.
Excellent point. So from security perspective, data protection perspective, that becomes a very important aspect. Absolutely. Absolutely. So knowing about the user profiles, personas, and the location is very important. Do you think it helps knowing the culture and languages of the users as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Why?
Because say there is a portal like Amazon or something. Classic case in our company, we have designed portal for French users. So every data is based on in French language only. Even testers has to learn some amount of French to test that.
What you're saying is more of a feature, right? That I want to allow users wanting to use my product in French language also. It's more of a feature. What I'm asking is, does it matter for us as builders of this particular piece of software to know about what is the what culture people might be coming in from or what languages they might know?
Yes, sir. In certain cases like embassy or visa processing, where if you want to go to say Emirates, and if they want to see your all documentation, and they prefer to get it translated then in Arabic, else that visa processing officer at their end might have difficulties.
So again, it's talking more about a feature, right?
Yeah.
Is it more of a feature, or is it going to help you in saying this is my only feature that I'm building? So let's take that resort example again, right? More relatable. Now, would it matter? I know the profile is basically someone who wants to come and stay at a resort. Maybe it's few days or a longer term. Maybe that's the only thing. Location, now we have established, yes, we need to know the location. Why? Because that can help us from the food selection perspective, what is the menu that we need to set at the simplest level. Would it matter why culture or languages are important for the users? Why would I want to know who's booking this resort, what culture they're coming from, or what languages they know?
It will help you to customize the experience.
Customize the experience.
Best example comes to my mind that in airline, if a passenger who is Jain, you cannot serve him something which contains even egg.
Right.
Otherwise, he might sue the airline company.
But that is still a user's choice if I want to get a meal or not.
See,
If I want to book a meal, I will go and select it. If it's not there, I take my own food. But why would I? Let's say this is an added feature, right? When airlines initially started, did they have all these options?
that is a basic necessity. If the airline is like traveling, say, more than 10 hours or so.
So again, we are getting into very specific cases. The point is, that's an add-on feature. Okay? It's an add-on feature. A low-cost airline, Indigo, for example, right? Let's say this is what we have. You choose what you want out of it. You're not going to select. Pre-booking is still different from what they have really, right? Maybe after 2 years, they say, no, we'll give free meals and whatever, and you select beforehand what you want. That's a different, let's say, evolving over there. But as an airline, does it matter to know what cultural languages my user is coming from? That is where it comes from. Sorry.
I believe that culture, languages, and location are content-specific topics. Like, I'll take the best example. Let's take Zomato. Okay. The working features of this application will be the same, whether I use it in USA or whether I use it in Pune. Okay. But the content, for example, menu, it will be different in USA, it will be different in Pune. So these things don't matter that much if we are discussing this topic as a software developers.
So, I like the way you started, but I disagree with how you ended. The answer really is it depends on the context. Okay, I completely agree with that aspect. Some products don't require that deep knowledge of culture and languages because it's not necessary in that context. But in some cases, yes, of course it is. Right? So, if a simple example, right? The profile based, what you clearly said, good example, Zomato, US or this, and the search style might differ over there, how you display information might differ, and that makes it quickly from this aspect, right? Another important things, potentially, again, I'm going to say now it depends on the context. You might want to know what are the hobbies and habits of your consumer, of your users. Because based on that, you can say if this person comes, if I've identified a profile of users in a particular age group, coming to my product every time on a periodic basis, can I not make my experience better for them? Instead of just saying this is my feature and it's well tested, it's well developed, well tested, it's a good feature. But if you start understanding your users more, you can have more insights into how your product can be built and that experience can be given to your users. And it's very important to get beyond saying that I'm just going to be testing this one particular aspect. Do I know my users and my product well enough from what the intent is, the value proposition is, what my users are to say if this feature will really work well, or what can be different in this feature to give them a better experience. Now you are starting to take more ownership of your product instead of just developing that piece of code or testing that piece of code. Okay? Now that you understand different aspects of your product and your users, how do you really measure and learn? And that is really the key aspect, right? CI, CD, that's more implementation. DevOps, that is more implementation. How do you really get the cycle going? But what is important is, how do you really measure? What are different ways that you can measure if your product is doing well? Okay? So come on, give me examples now. How are you currently measuring your products? Analytics. What about analytics? What about analytics?
Helps us understanding a trend
Now let's close that first. What is analytics? What does it give you?
So it gives you the reports, what are the data that would be stored. You can pick up the reports about the, so example that we took it, the hits of users for the particular product. If it's a measure, we can filter out that kind of information through analytics and use that information for further enhancement of our product.
Okay. Everyone heard that? Shall I repeat? So basically you capture whatever information from your product and the dashboards will tell you how many people, for example, came to your product and what did they, how did they interact with the product, right? That's what you said, right? Anything more to add?
Volume throughput, payments background, transactions per second, the amount of transactions that you process, capability of the application process.
So volume and throughput in terms of, for example, transactions and how much revenue generated and everything. Would that come from analytics? I thought there would be better, more reliable systems and analytics for that. That should be a more core piece of your software, right?
Yeah, no, so I'm not referring to this case.
Okay.
The application
Okay. Sorry, I mixed it up with that.
Okay. That's separate. So,
Yeah.
if I want to measure the quality of the application that I'm building, probably that would be one way to measure.
So usage, is it sufficient enough to say if everything is fine or not? Essentially, that's what you mean. Okay, fair.
To add it, what we said is demographically you divide your users.
Sure.
So
And
you will get more insights on what kind of users coming to your store and what kind of habits they are showing.
right. So again, it's coming to analytics in terms of breaking down the analytics into whatever classification you might want, whether it's location, demographics, age group, browsers, OS, whatever else really makes sense, right?
Talking about user groups, let's say there are 3 user groups. So there should be a lead from all those 3 user groups, and we can set up weekly meetings, weekly discussions with them, and we take their feedback.
Okay, so direct feedback from representations from different user groups in terms of how your product is doing, right? But that's still a very small sample, but it definitely helps a lot directly hearing from potential users that are there. Okay, great. So definitely analytics, I think, forms a core of understanding how your product is doing. But this is not very simple. Why it's not very simple? If I just want to know how many users came to my product, yes I know, right? How many page hits were there? Maybe there are easy ways to track referrals. Okay, from which page to which page have they gone, right? Certain things are easily available in the analytics tools that you integrate with and doing that. But if you want to get deeper insights, for example, segmentation based on user location. Location might come in naturally in certain ways as part of the tools. But if you want any deeper insights based on user profiles, then you have to build that capability into your product. So first thing is, what would I like to see in terms of measuring? And then feeding it back into your requirement cycle to say, if this is a type of information that will help me figure out how my 3 different user groups are using my product, I need to build that capability into my product first in order to send that type of tracking possible. And of course, there's a lot of restriction, and rightly so, in terms of what type of user information can you track or not. So you have to balance it well also, right? That becomes very important. So that is the first feedback cycle that is coming. If I want to measure something, do I have the capability to first send that data in order to measure it? Maybe the tools have dashboards need to be customized to say, I need to see these kind of dashboards. I need to customize that as well. But analytics forms a very core essence of any product in terms of knowing how the product is working. Okay? There could be crashes on client side, server side, depending on the context, of course. If it's native apps on Android, iOS, Windows phones, for example, if the app crashes sending detailed crash information, you know from very specific cases what is really happening out of it, right? Or if there's a sudden spike in API usage, if that API, the server crashes for whatever reason, having detailed analysis alerts on top of that, that becomes very important. The other aspects, which is especially very important, not from a B2B perspective, more from a B2C perspective, is the reviews and ratings that are there. Play Store reviews, App Store reviews, ratings, and also immediate feedback on social media. Everyone is on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever it might come in from. Wherever your users might be, again, knowing your users is important because you will know where they are saying good or bad about you as well. And that becomes a very important source to find out how your product is doing. A user may not send a crash report or an email saying this is a problem that I faced, but will very quickly go to Twitter and say, whatever company name, hashtag fail, whatever it is, and they'll complain easily over there. So it's important for you to be very proactive and understand from various different sources what is really happening. And of course, the errors and logs that would be there in your product, you have to build instrumentation in your product wherever makes sense to capture this information well enough, and again be proactive in that analysis. Because if you wait for customer complaints to start coming in by email or someone calling up your CEO or whoever to say this is not working, it is too late. You have missed the opportunity to be proactive and figure things out. Okay, and of course there will be many more ways how to measure. Measuring is not really very different than what we have done. The thing that is not mentioned here though is monitoring and alerting is very important of your systems as well, and that gives a very real-time health check of what is going on in your product. Okay, but now the interesting part, right? If you have all this data, how many of us in the room over here look at that analytics data? Only when an issue occurs? Is that really the case, or in other cases you proactively keep looking at it as well?
We do a lot of monitoring.
Yes. So we do have defect trials meetings where such analytics help us, to go back and learn, and so that we don't have the similar issues that we had in previous releases.
Correct. Great. So some people are doing it. That is great, right? Again, it's all about balance. There's so much information that you have captured now. You cannot be leaving your day job and just saying, I want to analyze this information and see what it really means. How do you balance it out well enough? That is something interesting way to look at. But when you start looking at all this data, then interesting things start happening. Then you start inferring with context. I see my page hit numbers have gone down tremendously. Why? Is there some problem with the product? Or, wait a minute, based on the users from where they are expected to come maximum during this time period, maybe there was an outage, network outage over there. Or maybe it was a public holiday and because of that this product cannot really be used in that time as effectively, right? For example, I'm just making things up right now. But hopefully it gives some information. Numbers going down doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, something bad happening with your product. Sales going down doesn't mean something bad happening with your product. It might be momentary. Maybe it's a trend which you need to keep on looking over the past few weeks, months, whatever is required. Again, in the context of your product to say, does it seem fine or not? Okay? It's very important. And with this inference comes the pivot of reserve. Should I pivot or continue with the direction that I had because everything seems fine? Now, this is something that we used to do in our earlier, when I was working in my earlier company, and over there it was a native apps that we used to release every 2 weeks, and millions of users, B2C product. But now, how do you predict, should I go to 100% release or not? We used to do stage releases, right? We least impact to the users, while we are able to measure from analytics and other sources how our progressive incremental releases are doing. But in that case, we used to say, okay, on which day are we doing that 1% release? How long do we want to keep that 1% release out in the market? And how do we measure this 1% release is similar in terms of trends that I am seeing compared to the last time we did a 1% release? And you start looking at the trends out of it and say, if I did a release on every Monday at this particular time, this is what my user base typically is at that time. This is the adoption that happens for the new release within a time period. Is that adoption going well or not? Are we seeing crashes, new crashes coming from this new version in that time period or not? Right? So very proactive usage of that data that you have collected, inferring with past context to say, yes, it seems fine, maybe we can go to 5%, right? Or maybe we can do 100%. So that is very, very important. Okay? So this is the classic case of closing the loop, really, right? About taking what you have built and measured, learning from it and seeing what can you do next with that information. But here's the futuristic thought. And I'm saying futuristic because not many teams, products, companies are doing this, right? It's getting to the level of prediction. If you really get this closed loop happening very effectively, can you say that here's a new requirement based on past information that I have? Is that information enough for me to say, if this particular feature goes out on this time period, this is what the usage of that product is going to be. This is what the engagement of that product is going to be. And if not, let's not even think about building that feature. You see the difference? It's getting into measuring, learning from it very effectively, building it back into your cycle, and then can you get into the level of prediction to say, yes, I don't even need to build this feature or roll it out at this particular time because here is the data that I can tell what is going to happen. And in fancy words, you can call this ML and AI. I'm just keeping it simple. I'm using predict. Okay? So there's some context. I have got a blog post around this as well, where a little more information has been shared. You can take a look at it. But I hope these thoughts have given you some different insights into not just typical tools, technology, manual automation or not, but what more is required to happen as team members on the team to really be effective. Know your product well, know your users well, effective measuring, and learn with very good context. And that is the hypothesis. From that learning, you can say, I now know what this means, and this is what I can predict what that numbers look like, right? Why were these numbers less or more? Based on that, you are taking decisions, yes, it's okay or not.
But here the hypothesis doesn't come into picture, right? Because you already have all the data there, you have the analytics there.
You're saying what next you need to do with that, right?
Yeah.
Based on the data, what next do you need to do with it? Am I okay? Or do I need to change my direction?
Do you have reports that already prove it, actually?
But what next do you do with that? Right? You're saying if we continue on this path, what next is going to happen? If we don't change this immediately, we're going to see a severe impact. Right? So that is from your learning, you will create that understanding to say what next do I want to do with it. Right? That is the part that I'm referring to as hypothesis. So that's all I really have.